Aloha, welcome back to Hawaii News Now's extended stream. This is a live look right now at the global launch ceremony of the Hokulea's 4-year voyage around the Pacific. I'm Emily Cristobal and I'm joined by Dylan and Cheta, and as you can see, this is Nainoa Thompson from the Polynesian Voyaging Society talking right now.
And talk about things at the core of who you are on the basis of the canoe called love. The world needs to be able to have that courage. And it's here. Byron and I, over 4 years ago, talked about this voyage. Make a circle in the Pacific. The question was, where do you start it? Byron is my great teacher. After my father. He's my great navigator and his best friend. And he humbly told me, it's got to be here. You know what? The navigator was correct. Coming in here, listening to you this morning has changed everything. I don't even want to talk about Moanui. So I've been scrambling notes over here, putting it up here, hope I can remember the thoughts about being so impacted by, again, your courage to be open, your courage to share with strangers from other lands about how much they love you, and the fundamental belief, and I agree, it's clear to me, that's the canoe that's going to change the world. And that's a canoe Moanui is going to take with us. It's an old canoe that's been tested over 12,000 years. And it's still here. And it still has navigators. It still has captains from your land, from your language, from your ancestors. It's still here, and it's stronger than ever. So I changed my speech. I'm going to struggle. I apologize. But I'm going to take you to my home. When I was young, maybe 5 or 6 or 7, I don't know. My father's mother, nearly pure Hawaiian. She was a storyteller, much like you. She had an old wooden house, and in the living room she had this bed that we call the pune'e. It's where she would rest. But that's where she dreamed. And that's where she connected. She was the connection as almost a prophet back to her ancestors. But she was a storyteller. And she comes to me this morning in here scrambling up the notes about what to say that would be meaningful. But you changed me. I bring my grandmother into the room. I would sit on the floor with her and she would tell me stories. She would tell me the stories of our name, Paoa. Paoa is an ancestral navigator's name that comes way, way back into places like our homeland in Kaikinui, at Taputapuatea, the great school of the navigators. But she talked about her grandfather, that when she was in school on Friday nights, he would paddle his canoe to a place called Kawaihoa, where I was raised, in the Bay of Maunalua, and he would pick her up, and they would paddle all night up against wind and wave in a place called the Kaiwi. Kaiwi is a name for the color of the bone, the white water, because it's so rough. And he would wait for dawn to come in the reef, she would talk, and he knew exactly when to go in amongst the big waves and get through and take his granddaughter up to the cave that he lived in and live the old way. When she talked about her grandfather, I don't remember her words, but I remember her eyes. Her eyes would brighten up. Her body would go against gravity and her body would lift up. She would sit up straight. And when she would talk about her grandfather, her love for her grandfather, and how much pride she had in him because he was a champion fisherman. Someone to be proud of. A great Hawaiian. And when she talked about him and how much she loved him, she looked right into your eyes, almost to tell you, boy, you need to be proud of him, proud of your ancestors. But she didn't say that. Gravity would pull her down. She would slouch on the couch. She would change the story. It would go into a personal, deep civil war inside of her. The war of conflict and doubt and fear. And she'd talk about the other half of her in school, where teachers had the permission to beat her. You know the story. You know the story. Beat her. Same story. I only bring this in because she needs to be here. When she talked about being beaten in school, and she went to the school called Kamehameha in a different time. Different time. She would slouch, gravity would pull her lower, and when she told those stories, she would look into the ground and not look into your eyes. It would be the first time that I would get a sense of the association of being Hawaiian and being shame of who you are. She would continue to look into the ground and talk about her uncle who would take the powerful detergent called lye and rub it really, really hard on his skin to remove the stain of the brown so he wouldn't be Hawaiian. And she continued to look to the ground. A story she needed to tell me, and all I could understand was, yep, you should be proud of who you are. Yep, you should stand up. You should be strong, look anybody in the eye, but don't. Because if you're going to be that, you're going to get hurt. So she would, my father's generation, maybe in 100 generations, would be the first that would be denied. Culture, tradition, language, and genealogy. To start that long road, that black road of extinction of who you are. Because you're going to get hurt in the larger society. I love my grandmother. She was brilliant and she was hurt. Her last days, I was in my late 20s. She was in the Queen's Hospital and she was very sick and she mostly slept. Damn. And I went by myself to go see her. I went in the room and nobody was there. It was just me. And she was sleeping. Quietly sleeping, didn't want to disturb her. But I put my hand on her hand. And without opening her eyes, without even waking up, it'd be the first time I would hear her chant. A language I didn't understand, except one word. Hokulea. She kept bringing up that name, Hokulea. Kept bringing her name, didn't open her hands, but she squeezed my hand. I didn't say a word to her. She didn't open her eyes, but she knew I was there. Why I bring up this story is because I had the privilege to be here 33 years ago with the genesis of an idea, the need for you to help us, to give us wood, to carry our culture, to build a canoe, and be proud. Why I bring up this story was when my grandmother squeezed my hand, I felt her strength. She didn't need her eyes. And why I bring that story up, it's just to try to impress upon you how far we've come in 33 years. I'm not saying that we don't have trauma or challenge. I'm not saying that we don't have a need for the healing. But man, we have come so far. And I saw it this morning by your speakers. Powerful, courageous, free, open, articulate, and beautiful. It is not the same speech I heard 33 years ago. And in this room, there is amazing people. And I do want to thank the institutions, of course. Sea Alaska Heritage, of course, First Alaskans, Tlingit Haida, and all the big institutions to make this happen. But it's been happening for 33 years. And it's growing. And it's more strong than ever. I want to thank the Princess for making an 8,000-mile journey to be here with us, to remind us how big the family is. We used to think our nation was 3.5 times bigger than the continental United States. Now, when we start to look at the real family, and you add on this one into the new map of the Pacific, anchored by Alaska, natives in the north, Rapa Nui in the east, Aotearoa in the south, and Paiwan in the west. Now it's 12 times bigger than continental United States. Byron was right. Started here. Because in this room, we have seen amazing things. Yakutat, because you remember. And we're all still mourning our great leader, Byron Malat. And then to be asked by his family that really rightfully should have carried that paddle. But the story is when they go out on the yak and they travel far and long, when the canoes come home, if someone's missing, if someone's not coming home, someone holds the paddle up. The paddle that is carved and painted of the warrior that's not coming home. Having the honor and the privilege to hold up that paddle as we came into Yakutat is beyond imagination, and it had to come from the love of that community for that man. And then to be into the A&B hall where we're overfed constantly. We're just going, how will we eat all this stuff? You know, but it's not just food, it's the family from the land and the sea. I wish we could do that in Hawaii. You come to Hawaii, we go to Costco. Because what we did to our coral reefs, what we did to our forest, we in this room, and I want to thank you for change, is a constant reminder that the forests aren't trees, those are our children. That the animals in the sea, that's our relatives. what we do to the land, what we do to the sea, we do it in the context of love of family. Because love of family and place is actually the same thing. We forgot. We forgot. So Costco might be a joke, but it's not. Because it's an alternative. Huna. Icy Straits. Community wants to sail. Come out with us. Yakutat, we honored Byron. Huna, chant and song was played to all of their family members that went out to the ocean and didn't come home. To make sure they're not forgotten, make sure that they're remembered, to make sure there's songs and there's chants for their names, calling out into the cold wind, and making sure that they know that their family loves them. And dancing in the, what impressed me the most, dancing in your halls, impressed me the most, young children. Generations are sitting there. And when the dance starts, a mother or a father is picking up a child, holds them close to their heart, and dances with them. No child did I ever see, no matter what the age was, in your clan houses, did I ever see a child cry. Ever. And all that time, the 2-year-old or the 1-year-old is being held to the love and the heart and the bosom of the mother or the father. They're listening to the songs of your ancestors. And I'll tell you, that is the pathway to stop extinction. Younger, the better. No crying, hanging on and listening and feeling the dance, hearing the chants, hearing the words. You're never going to go back to any question of whether you're going to lose it, because you're not. You're powerful. Damn. Deishu, I just learned that word. Did I say it right? Oh, yeah. In this room, I do want to thank the 3 families of the Malats and the family of Judson Brown and Ernie Hillman for being here to care for us. But to be at the graveside of Judson Brown with all the daughters and all the granddaughters and grandsons, the great-grandsons, the great-great-grandsons and grandchildren there, it was just a powerful reminder of how many times do we go to the grave sites of our loved ones and make sure that when we come, you come. Because you get to do what they do, pay respect, honor, remember, don't forget. I'm struggling. But Judson comes in my mind too. 1992, he says, Nainoa, I want you to come to my home in Seattle. I want to show you something. So I go to his home and have the privilege to stay there, and he opens a drawer in his filing cabinet, pulls out a file. In the file was, he gives it to me, 2 scientific research papers, independent of each other, in genetics. And what it said was, the native people of this land have strong Polynesian genetics and blood type. And he wanted me to read that and see it because Judson was the brilliant navigator that recognized at some point in time, we're going to need to connect. We're going to need to come together. And as the world feels like it's falling apart, like it's being fractured, that we're heading and mapping out war, and that we're depleting natural resources faster than the human need can be met. All those things that we see every single day that's thrown at us and our children. Stories of fear, stories of doubt, stories absent of hope. Judson is saying, no, come together. There are tools. Right now, to me, we have tools in the room from science. We have tools in the room that's building a third canoe to sail with Hokulea and Hikianalia. It's a virtual canoe, a platform for platforms with the biggest institutions we have in the world that can scale that to any child in the world. With commitments from us saying you cannot just increase the gap in education between the rich and the poor. That the education that come off these canoes going to have to be free. The institutions agreed, because equity matters. It's the only way. We would fail out of our tent if we increase that gap. Those tools are here, and they're powerful. We have them. That's the essence of Moana Nui Akea. But let's not talk about departure. Those canoes can't leave. This is not a departure ceremony. This is a celebration of a beginning. I was at a lunch years ago with the Dalai Lama, and his assistant came up to me and said to me that the Dalai Lama believes that Hokulea is a flashlight. It's shining a beam in the black of the storm on the earth, and it's creating the path for humanity to find its way out of the storm. And I think about that. I bring him in the room. I'm stumbling. I apologize. Because I've been so impacted by you, all of you, what you've done, the consistency of respect, the consistency of aloha, the consistency of kindness, consistent. The reason why I say this is because in many ways, I think you're the light. I think you're the flashlight. And your light is strong. We can't do this voyage without you. There are platforms for you, if you choose. And the reason I say that, the world needs to see your light. And when you ground it to its basic essence, your light's going to lead the earth and life on the earth. We are embarking in a time in human history, in my humble opinion, is facing the race. Those who we keep acknowledging are destroying and hurting the planet. And there's another powerful movement. More powerful, exponentially more powerful than ever. It's the movement of kindness on the planet. You know how we know? We went around the world. And where we saw it the most was strangers that are like you. They're in their forests. They're in their watersheds. They're in the worst of your communities. The ones that people need it the most. Children that should be served the most, that are served the least. They're there. That thousands, and actually we saw, you just exponentially multiply that by the ones we didn't see. There's the greatest movement in human history ever to respond to hurting two things: home and family. When a parent starts a debate, the prognosis of a war in 4 to 5 years on the ocean, they can choose fear or they can choose strength. You choose strength. This is the greatest movement that's happening now to restore the earth. And the reason why they need you, because you guys clearly have shown the growth and the shift and the change and the power and the conciseness of your word about how clear you are about two things. About one thing: love of your family and your home. You will be the ones that will help humanity, because fundamentally, yes, they need your story. But what humanity needs, it needs your strength. Hokulea needs your strength. We need your strength. I am not asking, I'm begging. Be with us. Let us take your stories. Let us take your home. We can do it. And show the world another way. But more importantly, show the light and strengthen the most incredible human movement of human history ever to restore our only island that we have, and we call it Earth. I really apologize for stumbling. I came with a speech for what I think, and all I could do is tell you how I feel. On behalf of Hokulea, I can find the strength too, just to say, we love you all. Mahalo.
That was an outstanding speech by CEO, Chief Executive Officer of the Polynesian Voyaging Society, Nainoa Thompson. And it reminds, he always honors his mentors and his parents, but his father, Myron Puku Thompson, of course, one of the founders, very influential of the Polynesian Voyaging Society.
And now the students of the Kamehameha schools, under the direction of Hula, Kaleo Trinidad, and Snowboard Bento, will perform the first part of a hula.
Mahalo Nainoa. As we witness what's happening to our planet, we call upon Hi'iaka, the great healer. Among her many forms, she is the younger sister of the volcano goddess Pele, and a patron goddess of Hula, our traditional dance. We share the story of Uluvehivehi, a time when the world of our ancestors was clean and vibrant, lush and teeming with life.
A beautiful dance, speaking of the vegetation of island Earth and how important it is to restore that vegetation so that life will continue.
And that concept of healing as